Hello and welcome to a new series of videos. I have a lot of ideas for how to make cars faster. A lot of them aren't practical, or unlikely to work anywhere but perfect conditions, but at least on paper I think at least have some merit. So I want an excuse to talk about the ideas I've dreamed up, and I figured making videos would be better than boring my friends about it. Feel free to criticise or chime in with your own thoughts. I want these ideas picked apart or improved. But anyway, yeah, let's get on with it. Alright, so from the first slide you've probably figured out that my first idea revolves around tyre heating in wet conditions. First of all, we need to make sure that everyone has the same basic understanding. The main focus here is that harder tyres, or harder compound tyres, struggle to get heat into them, but are more durable and generally don't change temperatures as quickly. Of course they have less grip, but that's sort of less of an issue in the things we're talking about, which is just tyre heating. The second thing you need to know is that racing tyres have an operating window, a range of temperatures the tyre needs to be within in order to work properly. If they aren't hot enough, they don't get grip, and if they're too hot, they overheat and degrade quickly. You can also see that the temperatures I've listed here, that as an example in F1, wet weather tyres have a much lower operating window, which brings us to our next point. So we also need to talk about how rain affects tyre heating. As far as I can work out, rain cools down the tyre in three ways. Firstly, the skies are clouded, so there's less sunlight to heat the air track and tyre. Secondly, the water can help absorb and carry off heat, similar to how you sweat to cool down. And thirdly, when the track is wet, there's less grip, which means you can't brake and corner as hard, so you can't put as much energy into the tyre, so there's less heat being created. To counter this, wet weather tyres are made much softer. On the right you can see I've got a tyre monitor from lapping on wet tyres in GTR2 in dry weather. Okay, it's a game, but it's a sim game based on reality, and I think just to show what's going on it's good enough. Anyway, you can see how the front tyres are massively overheated. This is because of how soft they are. Okay, the rears are cold, which suggests there's a lot of understeer, but that's mostly because the setup isn't optimised. The point is the tyres are very soft, and in dry weather, when there is enough water to cool it down, they just die. So this means that in changing conditions, such as when the rain stopped and there's a drying line, the tyres will want to overheat. You often see drivers driving through puddles to try and cool down the track as it dries. On the other hand, on dry weather tyres, they can't generate enough heat to grip properly when it first begins raining. Imagine when it first begins raining and the track isn't wet enough to need intermediates, but there's still a little bit of rain and the skies are clouded over. The tyre just can't get heat in it and can't reach the operating window to actually grip and be able to still drive quickly. So there's the problem. Now to explain the solution. It involves this: alkali metals. On the periodic table, on the furthest left column, you have the group 1 elements. All of these, except for hydrogen, are the alkali metals. Now, these are interesting because if you put them in water, they react and burn up. I'm not an expert, but from a bit of Googling and whatever, and vaguely remembering chemistry lessons, if you put it in water, it kicks out some of the hydrogen in the water, which, you know, is oxygen and 2 hydrogen, replaces one of the hydrogen, and the hydrogen that gets kicked out basically just burns up, which creates heat. The further down you go, the more violent the reaction is. So for example, on screen I've got potassium here, which you can see is very reactive and burns up in the water completely after only a couple of seconds. So here's the solution I'm proposing. Put an alkali metal into the Tyre compound. I'm thinking lithium, since it isn't too reactive but should still provide heat. In dry weather tyres, this means that once it starts to rain, it'll heat up and be able to stay in that operating window. Likewise, for wet weather tyres, you can make them a harder compound, something closer to the dry weather tyres, and still be able to generate heat in them while it's raining, but also have that higher operating window so that it works in more conditions. It's a win-win. I can see a few possible issues with this. Firstly, the group 1 elements are very reactive with everything, so I could see it being difficult to stop it reacting with the air or other stuff in the tyre. Also, I'm not sure how you control the reaction with water. Like, all the metal could just react in one burst over a single lap and then it'd be useless from thereafter. Even then, in dry weather tyres, I could see a burst of heat could still be useful to have to keep the tyres in the operating window for just like a lap or two longer. Speaking of a burst of heat, I have no idea what sort of temperature ranges we're working with. I'm saying lithium because it's not too reactive, and you saw what the potassium reaction was like. but there's every chance that it might not produce enough heat, and, you know, it only increases the temperature of the tyres by, say, 5 degrees Celsius, which isn't really the sort of boost we're looking for here. Really, it's more of like a 30-40 degrees Celsius boost. On the other end of the spectrum, if we use something too reactive, the tyres will literally just turn into bombs the moment it rains. Like, it touches water, or, I don't know, maybe another car has a leak on the track or something, leaks water for whatever reason, and all of a sudden the tyres catch fire. I don't know. That's kind of why I say it's potentially lethal. It's kind of chaotic and random. I think there's potential in it, but I have no idea how you like protect it from like water on track when it's otherwise warm. Anyway, that's basically it. If you've got any opinions, feel free to leave them in the comments. Thank you for watching. Remember to subscribe to Boost Nethnal for more, leave a like, and have a nice day.